Hello and welcome back to part 2, Solving Percent Problems. My name is Daisy Eccles and I'm with WKEC and I am an instructor for the GED program. Today we're going to be looking at using proportions to solve percent word problems. And so I'm going to fill in this little area up here and this will be my reminder of how to do a proportion. With a proportion, we're going to make sure that we're looking for a part over top of a whole. And this is where we would also have in parentheses is over of, if we need to use it that way. And on this side over here, we're going to have 100 on the bottom, and we're going to have percent on the top. So this is the setup for a proportion. When we are trying to solve the proportion, we are going to cross multiply and divide. So that's how we use a proportion. Okay, so I'm going to start with word problems. I actually have some copies where I've made the word problems big, so you'll be able to see them better. So I'm going to move this over to the side, and we are just going to work on a variety of word problems and practice them just so that we'll be able to do this on a GED test. Okay, so problem number 1. These first 3 problems are going to just be refreshers from our part 1 simple percent problems. So number 1 says, the sales tax rate in Kentucky is 6%. How much tax would you pay on a shirt that costs $29? Well, I'm going to go ahead and do my setup for my proportion. And then I'm going to go make sure I put my 100 on the bottom because it always goes there. And I'm going to grab this 6%. We're looking for a tax rate of 6%. So I have 6 over 100. Now I'm going to be looking for a part and a whole. So we're looking for a part of the cost of a shirt, part that is the tax rate. So the part is going to go on the top. We don't know that. We're going to solve for that. So that's X. And the whole cost of the shirt is $29. So we're going to fill that in. Now we've got 3 filled in, and we cross multiply and divide to find out what X equals. So I'm going to multiply here, grab my calculator. Ooh, not that calculator. Let's try this one. Okay, I'm going to put 29 times 6, and I'm going to divide that by 100. And that gives me 1.74, which in money is $1.74. And that's our answer. There's a $1.74 sales tax on a $29 shirt. Okay, moving to number 2. The total bill for Matthew and Bella's dinner was $48. They left a tip of $9.60. What percent tip did they leave? Okay, so this time I'm looking for my percent. So I'm going to put my X there, and that's over 100. Now on the other side, my other fraction, I have to set it up with the part and the whole. So the whole dinner price was $48. The part that was the tip is 9.60. So now I've got my proportion set up. And again, I cross multiply and divide. Divided by 48. And X equals 20. So, what percent tip did they leave? They left a 20% tip. That's a pretty good tip. Okay. All right. Problem number 3. David has driven 2,550 miles on his way from New York to San Francisco. If he has driven 85% of the total distance, what is the distance from New York to San Francisco? Set my proportion up, put my 100 on the bottom, find my percent, put that on there. Now I've got to decide which is the part and which is the whole. What am I trying to find? David has driven 2,550 miles on his way from New York to San Francisco. So this is how far he's gone so far, and I need to find what the distance is from New York. So I got to find the whole distance. So this is the part he's already driven, and I'm trying to find the whole distance. So my X is going to go down here with the whole, and this is the part he's driven. Okay, so I've got my proportion set up. I'm going to cross multiply and divide and use my calculator. 2,550 times 100 and divide that by 85, and I come up with 3,000. So X equals 3,000 miles. The whole trip is 3,000 miles, and he's driven 85% of the way, which is 2,550. Okay. All right. So now the first three problems were a warm-up, reminding us how to use a proportion to solve percent problems. But now we're going to move on to some more challenging problems. And these problems, what's different about them is we're going to use the proportion to solve for missing information, but then we have to go back and make sure we answer the question. These are going to be multi-step problems where you're going to have an extra step after you've already figured out using the percent. You're going to have an extra step. So for this problem number 4, a jacket selling for $48 was on sale for 20% off. What is the sale price of the jacket? So when we do our proportion, we're going to use this first bit of information, and we're going to find out what the discount was. So first, we're going to find the discount. And then our second step of the problem is to subtract the discount from the original price. And then that's going to give us the sale price. Okay, so this is a two-step problem. So we're going to go to step 1 and we're going to find out what the discount was. So we set up our proportion, 100 on the bottom, 20 on the top for the percent. Now the jacket originally sells for $48. And so our X is going to be, what is the discount? What is the 20% off? I'm going to cross multiply and divide. Clear that out. 48 times 20. And then divide that by 100. And the discount says 9.6, but in money, that's $9.60. So this is my discount. Now I need to find the sale price. And that's how much a shirt costs when it's on sale. So now I'm going to take the $48 and subtract $9.60, and then that's going to be my answer. So 48 minus $9.60 gives me 38.4, which is $38. I need two place values for money. So I've got to put that extra zero there. $38.40 is the sale price of the jacket, and that's my answer. So this problem required an extra step. And I promise you, when it comes to GED multiple choice answers, this one right here is going to be one of the answers. So you have to be careful and go back and make sure, reread your problem and make sure that you've answered the question. Because $9.60 is not the sale price of the jacket. That is just the 20% discount. So you want to make sure that you find a sale price, and when you do those multiple choice, they're going to have both in there. So it'll be tricky, and you got to make sure you do choose the right one. Okay, we're going to move on to some more problems, multi-step problems. So right here, I'm going to go to number 5. I'm going to try to keep my paper so you can see that cross multiply and divide up there. Okay, hopefully you can see this. Okay, so number 5 says, of 320 employees in the factory where Manuel works, 78% participate in the company's savings plan. How many employees do not participate in the plan? So this also is a multi-step problem, because when we go up here and we figure out what 78% of 320 is, that's going to be the percent of people or of employees that do participate. 70%, 78% participate in it. We want the ones that don't. So step one is find the number of employees that is 78%. Step two is find the number that do not. So we're going to have to subtract to get that answer. 2 steps for this problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what my 78% is. 78 over 100. On this side of the 320 employees, that's all the employees. That's the whole amount that goes on the bottom. And I have my X on the top, which is the part that do participate. So I'm going to cross multiply and divide. Pull my calculator over. Okay, and I got X equals 249.6. This is also tricky because that's not a whole, we can't have a decimal point of a person. But we're going to finish the problem and finish the subtraction, and then we're going to round it to the nearest whole person. Okay, so 249.6 do participate. So we're going to take 320 and we're going to subtract that 249.6. Use my calculator. 320 minus 249.6, and that gives me 70.4. And so we're going to round that to be approximately 70 people. We round that off. 0.4 is less than 0.5, which means we would round it down. So 70 employees do not participate. And again, I promise you, they're going to have probably 250 as a possible answer on the GED. So you want to make sure that you think about, did you answer the question? When you get to this, you got to go back and figure out how many employees do not. So pay attention to that. Okay, next multi-step problem. This is an interest rate problem. And something to always remember when it comes to interest rates, simple interest rates, is they're based on annual. Okay, annual means based on a year. And something to remember is 1 year equals 12 months. And that will come into play a lot of times when we're trying to figure these problems. So we're going to read the problem and we're going to do A, which is how much interest will he pay at the end of 1 year. Okay, so that one's a simple problem. Gus took out a loan to purchase new furniture. He borrowed $1,600 at a simple annual interest rate of 14%. Okay, we can do that. I have 14% over 100, $1,600 or $1,600. That goes on the bottom. That's the whole amount he borrowed. And we want to find the amount that he paid in interest at the end of 1 year. So there's my X. I cross multiply and divide. Do it on my calculator, and I come up with X equals 224. And that's $224 for 1 year of interest. Okay, now let's go to step B. And you may see these kind of problems on the GED where you have to take an extra step. How much interest will he pay if it takes him only 9 months to pay it off? That's where we have to go back and remember where 1 year is 12 months. So I'm going to use a proportion to solve this too. We already figured out how much interest he has at 1 year, 224. So I'm going to put 224 as if he had the whole year, and we need to figure out how much 9 months is. So we're going to use a proportion, and we're going to set this up to equal to 12 months on the bottom, and we want to find out what it is for 9 months. So notice how I have 224 for the whole year and 12 months is in a whole year. I have them on the bottom. They need to be on the same side of the proportion. And on the top part, X is going to be equal to how much interest he pays for 9 months. That's on both of those are on the top side of the proportion. So that's one thing to remember when you're setting it up. You have to kind of keep those sides cohesive. Okay? All right. So now I've got the proportion set up. I'm going to cross multiply and divide again. And that's going to tell me how much interest he paid when he paid it off early in just 9 months. So 224 times 9 divided by 12. And that gives me $168. That's how much he paid for 9 months of interest. Okay, another multi-step problem. Okay, we're going to look at now number 7. Chen opened a new savings account that offered 4% simple interest annually. If she deposits $1,300, how much will she have in there at the end of 1 year? Okay, I think we're... Well, goodness, that one's pretty easy. How much will she have at the end of 1 year? Okay, the number 6 was actually harder than this one. All right, here we go. We're going to set it up. Actually, I'm going to stop. I think you should pause this and take a minute and see if you can solve this problem. When you're ready, unpause it and I'll show you the answer. All right, here we go. Here's the tricky part. Not sure if you caught that, but how much will she have in there at the end of 1 year? Well, in her savings account, she's going to have that $52, but she's also going to still have the $1,300. So we need to add those together at the end. So she'll have a total of $1,352 in her account at the end of a year. So it was a multi-step problem. You just have to remember to add those together at the end. Okay. Now we're going to look at some additional problems called percent of change problems. And for these problems, we're going to need to follow some rules. Okay? So for solving for percent of change problems, step 1 is we have to find the amount of a change. So our problems are going to have an original amount, and then there's going to be an increase or a decrease, and we're going to have a new amount. So when we have that, step 1 is to find out what is the difference, how much did it change. Then step 2 is we're going to use a proportion, and on our fraction side of the, on the one side of the proportion, this is the side where we're going to be figuring our percent of change. But on this side, we're going to put the change, the amount of the change, over top of the original amount. Excuse me. And then we're going to cross multiply and divide to find the percent of changed. So then we're going to, well, I guess we'll cross multiply this way, divide by the original amount, and we'll find the percent of change. So these are the steps. And now we're going to go ahead. I've got these problems made larger so we can kind of see them better. And we're going to go over them. Okay. I think this is clear to see. So for number 1, a high definition TV or an HD TV that originally sold for $380 was on sale for $285. By what percent did the price drop? Okay, so first we have to do the change. We got to figure the change. So I'm going to take 380 minus 285. And you're welcome to do it on paper, pencil, or use your calculator. So 380 minus 285 equals 95. The price dropped by $95. This is my change. So when I go to set up my proportion, I've got my 100 here. I'm looking for my percent. The change goes on the top. It changed by $95. Now here's the tricky thing. You have to remember that what goes on the bottom here has got to be the original amount. So I go back up to my problem. It originally sold for $380. I have to use this amount to find the percent of change. Okay, so this must be the original amount. Okay. Now I've got my proportion set up and I just cross multiply and divide. 95 times 100 divided by 380, and the percent of change is 25%. The price dropped by 25%. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Again, if you want to pause right now that you've seen it done once, you're welcome to try these two problems yourself and then start this video again and we'll go over them together. Okay, I'll let you pause it. When you come back, I'm just going to go ahead and solve them. Okay. Remember, this is the original price. That's the price they brought the house. This is my original amount. Cross multiply and divide. X equals 125%. So the value of their house increased by 125%. Next one. Tim decided to lose weight. In January, he weighed 212 pounds. After 6 months of exercising and dieting, his weight dropped to 180. His original weight is 212. The amount of change is 32 pounds. And we're going to round that decimal answer to 15%. What percent of weight did he lose? He lost 15% of his weight. Okay, and the last problem. Last year, town budget was $2.4 million. This year, the budget will be $2.7 million. By what percent did the budget increase from last year? I'll set my proportion up here. I'm going to subtract. Okay, 0.3 is the amount of change. Then I got to put it over the original amount. The town budget last year is the original amount, 2.4, x over 100, cross multiply and divide. 0.3 times 100 divided by 2.4, and I get 12.5, and that is the percent of change. 12.5% was the increase from last year. Okay, I hope these problems were helpful. This is not every kind of percent problem, but these are the main types of percent problems you need to know in order to pass the GED. So if you study these notes and you study these problems, it will really, really help you on the test. Okay, best of luck with it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.